Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be doing their tier list. A couple months back I did a tier list on all the DS1 bosses after I beat it, and somewhat recently I beat Dark Souls 3. I've beaten Dark Souls 2 as well, but there's just so many bosses and a lot of them are mid, and it's going to take a long time to go over each and every one of them, and I really don't feel like doing that right now. So we're just going to go over the Dark Souls 3 bosses, which in my opinion are objectively better. They have a lot of hits and also a lot of misses. Don't worry, I'm not going to be keeping a lot of these in F tier. I'm just putting them here because I have the whole, like literally every boss, even fucking Elden Ring and shit. So, even DLC, Elden Ring as well. So, but we did a ranking of all the DS1 bosses, and now we're going to be doing a DS3 boss tier list. This is just my opinion, what I thought going through the game myself. Honestly, in my opinion, Dark Souls 3 is one of the easier Dark Souls games. I think their bosses are usually harder, but the overall base game in getting to those bosses, I think, is significantly easier because how closer the bonfires are to the bosses. There's like hardly any real difficult run-ups, especially when the bosses are hard. Usually they don't have very hard boss run-ups. So here we're going to be doing Dark Souls 3, and there's just, like I said, this is one of honestly, most of the difficulty in this game is in the DLC, and I'll be getting into that soon. But without rambling too long, hopefully I don't make this video too long because usually I do make these videos super long. I don't really mean to. I just ramble a lot, and it turns into a hour-long video. I have to edit it down to like a reasonable length. But anyway, starting off, this is gonna be in alphabetical order, not really the order that they appear in. So we're just gonna go. I'm just gonna run it through, starting with Abyss Watchers. Personally, even through I haven't beaten Elden Ring yet, but I'm almost to the end of it, and I haven't touched the DLC of Elden Ring. But of all the From Software games I've played, Abyss Watchers has always stuck to me and has been my favorite Souls boss that I played. The soundtrack, magnificent, probably my favorite soundtrack. I think Dark Souls 3's music and just soundtrack, boss music, whatever, just overall is just a cut above the rest, in my opinion, for, just comparing the nine of the Souls games. I haven't played Bloodborne or Demon Souls because I've never had a PlayStation, but from all the games I've played, I mean, I haven't played Sekiro either, but from all the games I've played, Dark Souls 3 has the best soundtracks for like bosses and just overall. But Abyss Watchers has a really good soundtrack. I really like the boss, how it's in two phases, and how they're kind of starting to fight each other. I also like how they're kind of like the descendants of Artorias, and I really love Artorias as a boss and just an overall character in the lore of Dark Souls. So that's pretty awesome. How they kind of brought back Artorias in a way with the Abyss Watchers. And it's really the first challenging fight of Dark Souls 3. I mean, the area running up to them suck. I do not like Keep at all. I don't think anybody does. Like the swampy areas that for some reason FromSoft likes putting into their games. Abyss Watchers is really the kind of like the cake at the end of that, where like it's actually a really fun boss fight. Run up isn't too bad. It's pretty much a straight run back, and it's not a super difficult boss. It comes in two phases where you actually get an ally. It's like a 2v2 with like one friendly Abyss Watcher and then two evil ones, and then only one takes actual damage. And then once it dies, everything dies, and then it all comes into the power of one Abyss Watcher, and then that'll be final, which will be like kind of the same move set, just a bit more aggressive and does more damage and does fire as well. But just the soundtrack and it being the first challenging boss has always stuck with me and has literally been my favorite boss FromSoft has made. Easy S tier. Aldrich, Saint of the Deep, pretty much looks exactly like Gwendolyn from DS1, but could not be any different. The only similarities really is when it does the super annoying fucking arrow rain, which always seemed to hit me for some reason. I just could never avoid it. But it's really easy to kind of like predict where he's going to go, because if you're on one side of the arena and he disappears, he will always go on the opposite side of the arena when he appears. So you can kind of like be really aggressive with that, and you just abuse his tail completely, and usually doesn't have anything to do with it. But I did struggle with him a lot more than the others, even more than Pontiff Sullivan. That was kind of my last DS3 run was kind of weird. Like usually the bosses I struggle with, I did without any real issues, but the ones I was expecting to kind of breeze through ended up being a little bit more challenging for me. Aldrich was a boss that got me a few times, mainly just the rain of arrows, and he'd always shoot those like fire projectiles. But he's one of the big, well, also Abyss Watchers is also one of the lords you have to slay, but Aldrich, he's pretty cool. I don't know how he really fits into the lore really of Dark Souls. He's kind of like Gwendolyn. I guess he consumes gods and absorbs their power and stuff. That's why I haven't really been big into Dark Souls lore, but As a fight, he's pretty interesting. I kind of don't like bosses that kind of teleport away from you randomly from time to time. It kind of like, ruins the aggression and the pace. And the stupid arrow attack where you have to run around and around in fucking the arena was just super annoying at times. I think he's a B tier, honestly. Ancient Wyvern, yeah, that's not moving from F tier, dude. Literally a gimmick fight where you go into Archdragon Peak. He's the first boss you fight. And you can fight him normally, but he has like so much health. It's basically like Ancient Dragon from DS2, where you just have so much fucking health, and it's just pretty much very similar move sets. And you actually fight Ancient Wyvern pretty much again later in the same area, but this one you go basically fighting through a bunch of those half dragon things, and you run all the way up. You go up a ladder, and you do a plunging attack at the end, and it instantly kills the dragon. And that's the fight. It's really a gimmick fight where you just run through an obstacle course, you get to the top, and you attack it. Pretty lame, just free souls. Not really much else to say about that. Crystal Sage, I don't know. Crystal Sage, it can be kind of challenging depending on what build you have. It's pretty easy to figure out which one's the real one, because once you get to like, I don't know, about 30% of its HP taken out, it does a second phase where it spawns multiple Crystal Sages that shoot blue projectiles, but the one that you can separate is always the purple one, which is the one that takes damage. But you can't attack the blue ones to get them out of the way because they can hit you and they will do a lot of damage. It actually killed me a couple times because I would get greedy, waiting for it to disappear, and it wouldn't disappear, and I'd get hit by like 3 beams at once and die. This thing's actually killed me like I think 2 times on my run. Usually I don't die to it at all, but in this run, in my last run, it killed me a couple times because I got so greedy, expecting it to kind of move, because that's what it does. Once you do so much damage, it kind of just like disappears and teleports somewhere else with all its other clones. I was expecting to do that. Bang, bang, bang. I'm dead because even though they're copies, I don't think there's really much of a damage fall off between the original Crystal Sage and the blue ones. And if you get hit multiple times, you can get hit multiple times at once without, if you don't pay attention to the blue ones and don't dodge, and you're fucking dead. So that's really what happened to me. Overall, as a boss, it's pretty a forgettable one. It's just kind of like a roadblock between going to the Cathedral of the Deep or going to, well, you have to fight it to go to the Cathedral of the Deep, but it's also to go, you can fight it before going to Faron Keep. Kind of like a middle ground between those two. I don't know. It's just like a C tier. Honestly, a pretty forgettable boss. Curse-Rotted Greatwood, another pretty mid boss in my opinion. Spoiler alert. Basically, it's a giant tree that you can't damage it without hitting its little freaking cyst sacs on the sides. And then once you bust like one of them, it drops the floor, kills all the enemies around them, which was surprisingly annoying. Then you go to the bottom, it's just you and it does all kinds of AoEs that get really annoying because it lingers. This little acid pool. It is like a little shake where it drops shit, but and the little arm in the middle always seems to get me, and it has a grab attack that like fucks you up sometimes. But it's the only other way to damage it without damaging the balls. But you can really do a shit ton of damage if you have like a high damaging weapon and you just fucking bust multiple at once, and then before it does the drop down, you can actually do a lot of damage. But it's a pretty forgettable boss, pretty easy one at that. I mean, to be honest, it's just you needed to make the conjuring thing or whatever the hell to turn the souls into weapons. So you do kind of need it if you want to do any of those, but it's an optional boss, and it's just a pretty mid one at that, to be honest. I'm putting it worse than Crystal Sage, but it's not D tier in my opinion. Now, Danger of the Boreal Valley is a super sick boss fight. It actually feels like kind of a dance between 2 bosses, and if you really learn the moveset, it's a very rewarding fight. It is also a very challenging one. If you don't count Abyss Watchers as a challenging boss fight, this one's definitely going to be a challenge because, especially if you fight it early, it can fuck you up. And there's a lot of attacks that can literally one-shot you, or combos mainly, that can one-shot you. But in my experience, usually what you want to do is just hang on to its ass and just keep pounding, bro. I mean, pause, but you know what I mean. Fighting this thing early is super sick, and you get access to Lothric Castle early in the game, and it's just a super sick fight. You really feel like you're going toe to toe with an actual, like, a lot of fights you just feel like you're completely stomping something, or it's just kind of like, oh, I gotta go here or there. But this fight actually felt like a duel between two two warriors, I guess, if not trying to sound too cringy about this, but that's what it feels like. It feels like a very rewarding fight, and especially if you learn it, it's very fun to fight it. So that's just my opinion on it. This is definitely an S tier fight. One of the best in Dark Souls 3 for sure. Deacons of the Deep, bro. First of all, one of the easiest fights in the game. Literally, you're just hacking, slashing through these motherfuckers and finding the one that has the beam on it until finally the final one appears and you just absolutely murk it. To be honest, if you have any weapon that has very large area of sweeping attacks, it's just going to be a joke. I mean, these things do like almost no damage to you unless you get surrounded, but even then, it's not that bad. It does like a attack that like it instantly kills you by cursing you if you're too slow, but I don't see how you could possibly get that to happen to you. I think it happened to me once in my first playthrough because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But as long as you know to attack the one with the light around it and shit, it's just such an easy fight. It's a joke. Honestly, the Cathedral of the Deep is way harder than any difficulty this boss can offer you. I don't think it's exactly F tier. I don't think it's as bad as Ancient Wyvern, but it's definitely D tier, one of the worst bosses in the game. Demon, I'm guessing this is the demon that you find on top of that tower when you're helping Siegmeyer or whatever his name is. So I don't know. It's literally a reskin of a later boss. So, or the boss is a reskin of this, whatever you want to say it. It's just a demon that has an axe. If you get hit by it, there's an absurd amount of damage, but you have Sigurd to help you, so it makes it even easier because technically a summon. C tier, I guess. Dragon Slayer armor is really nice because it literally gives you one of the best weapons in the game once you beat it. Pretty late to the game, it's after Lothric Castle, so you're kind of prepared to fight it, but it still does an absurd amount of damage. The only thing that annoys me about this fight are the big freaking butterfly things that occasionally hit you and just throw off your whole fucking mojo, which happened like surprisingly a lot in my fight. I've never gotten knocked off the bridge, but dude, some of them attack, especially the charged ones, will literally just absolutely freaking destroy you. But on my least recent playthrough, I first tried him. He wasn't too bad, but I've had previous playthroughs where I've just actually got destroyed by this thing, and it has actually messed me up beyond measure. Like, but my recent playthrough, I was using a scythe with just the best armor I could find. I wasn't really doing mainly vigor and dex as well as going for, so, and I handled them pretty fine. So honestly, it wasn't a bad fight, but it's definitely one of the better ones. I'll put it in A tier because it drops a really good weapon, and it's just I think it's a sick fight. It's just a little butterfly things drop it from being S tier. I almost want to put it in B tier because of the little butterfly things. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Those things get on my nerves. You just never expect them to hit you, and then when they do, you're like, what the fuck? And then you get hit by the fucking Dragon Slayer armor and you're dead. So that's just my opinion. Gundyr, the tutorial boss, and probably in my opinion the best tutorial boss in the game, in the Dark Souls series. Probably of any Souls game that I've played, which I've only played the Dark Souls games in Elden Ring. Definitely better than Soldier of Godric, better than Stray Demon or Asylum Demon, and Dark Souls 2 really didn't have a tutorial boss. So this really just teaches you the mechanics of the game to a T. I mean, getting your dodge timings right. He's not an easy opponent, especially early into the game when you fight him. And he has a phase 2 that most people probably wouldn't expect in their first ever playthrough, where he just turns into a fucking beast and completely changes his moveset into a completely different thing, and now you got to like kind of adapt. Really teaches you like how the game is going to be throughout the entirety of it. So I think it's a really great tutorial boss and probably the best. I'm putting that in S tier. Then we're going to Champion Gundyr, which doesn't have a whole lot of changes. When I fought him, I feel like it was pretty late into the game, and I just absolutely destroyed him. If you know how to parry, he's a joke, but I didn't really parry. I've never been really good at parrying, but his attacks are not that hard to dodge. And he's just a reskin of Gundyr, just more aggressive with a new moveset. So he's going into A. Lothric and Lorien, probably like, in terms of like mandatory bosses go, definitely the hardest in my opinion. At least that's what I used to think. Maybe not so much anymore. But Lothric and Lorien, I used to like dread fighting it, because the run up is probably the longest out of, I think, probably not the longest, but it's one of the longest definitely in the game, because you have to wait for a lift and you have to run up them stairs and it takes a while. But once you know Lothric and Lorien, dude, they're not that bad, dude. He teleports and he has such a long wind up before he hits you that you can easily dodge it. When you know when he teleports, he's going straight into another attack, so how are you going to miss it? He does like a ranged attack where it shows a beam of light on the ground. Pretty typical thing where it slashes and it goes. There's a beam of light. They got dodge or fire. Fire, I can't really remember. Problem is Lothric, if you kill, and it's a two-phase fight. You first are fighting Lorien by himself, and then you got a buffed up version of him with Lothric on his back, who also shoots magic at you as you fight it. But it's pretty rare that the magic, I think it uses the magic, but typically the magic hit me, surprisingly, a lot. So Lorien, his attacks are pretty easy to dodge. He's very slow. Usually he misses, and I usually dodge him, and then Lothric shoots magic. That's the only thing that really hits me common dosages. But if you do not kill Lothric first, Lorien will. Well, if you kill Lorien first, Lothric will revive him, but during this time he's vulnerable to your attack. So you could kill Lothric while he's trying to revive Lorien, but if you didn't do any damage to Lothric, he's going to revive Lorien back up to full HP, and you gotta, either do it again or kill Lothric on his back, and then they both die regardless. So you really want to put your focus, your attention on Lothric, but definitely a sick fight. Definitely one of the better ones in the game. Not S tier quite, but definitely better than Champion Gundyr in my opinion. And a super rewarding fight when you finish it. Alright, Nameless King. Oh. The epitome of Dark Souls difficulty, and probably the most rewarding victory you could possibly have on a boss. Definitely the hardest boss in the base game, and it took me so long just to be able to beat him. I finally beat him on my last playthrough, but that's probably my 4th or 5th playthrough of the game, and I never could beat him. But this time was different. I beat him, and it felt so sweet. And honestly, he's not as bad as I was remembered. His first phase, he's on a wyvern. It's called I think, King of the Storm or something. They have to beat the dragon. Pretty easy dodge, moves to dodge, and the only real attack that messed me up, especially in the past, was the downwards AoE where it breathes fire on the ground. Now that attack did fuck me up a lot, but not in my last playthrough. Once you know that, that's a pretty easy fight. A lot of its attacks have long windups, easy to dodge, and a lot of time where it's recovering, you can easily kill it. Then it dies. Nameless King gets the power of the dragon, and it's a one-on-one between you and Nameless King, and that's where it's a bit harder to time the dodges. His attacks are sometimes delayed, and then sometimes it's just instant. He has an attack where he does this with the fucking staff, and it instantly sends lightning down to you, so you don't know the timing on that, you're going to get hit by it, and it does quite a bit of damage. Nameless King, he's an endgame boss. He's going to do a lot of damage if he hits you, so you got to be prepared and capable of dodging his attacks, or you're just going to get absolutely destroyed. Phase 2 is definitely significantly harder than Phase 1, but once you know his moveset and you can dodge him, it's like the most rewarding feeling ever, being able to take him down, because he is definitely one of the hardest bosses in the game, and definitely the hardest in base game. It's just the lore behind them and everything. It's the spectacle. It's definitely probably the best boss in the game, but my personal favorite is Abyss Watchers, but Nameless King is up there for real, honestly. Our next up is Asuros, which is a kind of like dragon beast type thing where he starts out using a sword, and then as you play him below 50 HP, he becomes like ballistic. Really have never struggled with Asuros. By the time you fight him, most of the people are going to be done with everything before Lothric Castle, and to be honest, he's just not that hard, man. I want to say the run up to him is harder than the boss itself, which is a lot of times the case in these games. To be fair, like, he's just not very hard. I don't really know what to say about him. He's just a beast enemy that is pretty easy to take down, and I think his voice is cool. I think that's about it, and he screams Ocelot a lot. Hardly ever died to him. He does get kind of annoying when he runs back and forth all the time, but it's just pretty much any, berserked beast type boss in any of these games. To be honest, he's like a C tier, honestly, probably top of C for me. Not really a huge fan of Asuros. And then we got Old Demon King, which is pretty much a reskin of the demon, except it's a boss, and it does like certain AoE attacks and stuff in like little waves, I guess. It's not really AoE, it's just like a wave that he does of fire that you have to jump to iframe through. You can't really jump in this game, so you just iframe it. Not really hard to dodge, but he does hit pretty hard because he is kind of like a more of a late game boss. He's 100% optional. Like, you just have to go to the demon ruins beneath the catacombs of Karthus to fight it. But to be honest, he does take a lot of damage, but he hits hard as crap, so I can understand dying to him. But To be honest, he shares the same moveset as this guy with just a few variations, like the wave attack I was talking about. You just need to not get hit. And it's really not hard because a lot of these demons and stuff, they have very slow, long wind-ups that are super easy to dodge, but you just can't get greedy, man, and that's pretty much it. I beat it first try. It wasn't hard. It just had a pretty large health pool, and it hit like a truck, but dodging it was easy. So, I don't know. I'll put it like bottom of B. Soul of Cinder, the culmination of the Dark Souls games. What a sick fight, man, and challenging one at that. In my last playthrough, I was literally done with DLC and everything. It was the final boss I fought, and I still died to him a few times. Maybe I came in with overconfidence or arrogance, but fighting all the bosses, he still gave me a hard time. I mean, he's not a no pushover. Has a variety of movesets where he can completely switch just on a whim. Like he can go from longsword, spear, staff, curved sword. Like he has all these different movesets that he can do. And then once you get him down to 50 HP, or no, I think you got to get him to 0 HP, and then in phase 2 he gets back to full, but whatever. He turns into, the theme completely changed, and he basically turns into a copy of Gwyn from the first game. You can they even share the same soundtrack, and it's just so awesome. The whole spectacle, the arena, everything about this fight is just so fucking awesome. It gives me chills, man. Even to this day, fighting this boss just gives me chills. And you hear the blum, blum, blum. You know what I'm talking about, man, if you beat this boss. When it switches to Gwyn's theme, you're just like, holy shit. He shares a lot of the same moves as Gwyn, and it's just sick. It's just awesome. Easy S tier, probably putting him up to like right there. Definitely easy S tier in my opinion. Next one, Stray Demon. It's not an actual boss. It's just the one that you find on top of the bridge. Basically a copy of the demons from Dark Souls 1 with a few variations in his moveset. Really can't really put it any higher than like a normal demon. I don't even know what it drops. I think it drops his weapon or something, but put it like, since it's not a reskin, we'll put it like right here. Not really much to say. It's just a optional little mini boss. Pontiff Sulyvahn, another like kind of a roadblock of like difficulty. Now I'd say there are like 3 of them where you got like Abyss Watchers, Lothric later in the game, and then Pontiff Sulyvahn. This motherfucker in my first playthrough I think killed me more than any other boss in the game. He's super challenging, man. But if you know how to parry, he's easy. I just never learned how to parry. But even in my last playthrough, I actually smashed him. I don't know what changed. His attacks were easier to dodge, in my opinion. And I don't know, he was just pretty easy. He turns into, once he gets like below 50 HP, turns into a phase 2 where he has a clone. But to be honest, the clone really doesn't change much. I mean, you know what he's going to do. He's always going to copy the clones. The clone's going to attack first. He's going to dodge twice. Easy punishes because he almost is more, he's more passive when he has the clone because, I don't know, he just does less attacks, makes it easier to punish between attacks, and you always know what's coming the second time. Honestly, second phase is easier than first phase in my opinion. And if you kill the clone, it honestly makes it harder, but then he also has like another time where like he has to make it again. And it's just, but honestly, I really enjoy the fight. It's an awesome fight, awesome spectacle, and it's a really good challenge about midway through the game. So super fun fight. Irithyll's awesome as well. S tier, we're going like right here. Vort of the Boreal Valley. Let me just say the theme of this boss is amazing. You know, you hear it a lot on like TikToks and stuff, or just, especially when the game was like popular, you'd always hear it. If you heard it, you know what I'm talking about. Pretty much everyone's heard of it. But as a boss, pretty freaking easy, honestly. Introduces the frostbite mechanic, which was introduced in this game, where he will hit you. If he hits you enough, you'll get frostbite. You'll have quicker stamina drain, take more damage, stuff like that, and you'll just take a chunk of damage when you get hit by it. But honestly, you just hug his ass, smack it. He's done, dude. He's just, and then he hits second phase, which is about 50 HP, as most bosses are. He'll go enraged, run back and forth, easy to iframe it, easy to dodge it, punish it. It's an easy boss. I'll put like C tier at like top of it, honestly. Volnir, pretty much another gimmick boss, and I used to not understand why people died to the mist all the time until my last playthrough. I just absolutely could not stop dying to the mist, man. Like he'll put I'll smack the 2 bracelets on his left hand, and then I'll go for the third one on his right hand, and he'll have it like close to his chest where I cannot attack it, because the second I'd go and try to attack that bracelet, she would just move forward and I'll be stuck in the mist and instantly die. He did that to me 3 fucking times. I was so pissed off because I was like, why the fuck does every time... It got to the point where I just wouldn't do it if his hand was so was close to his chest. I just would not attack it. I'll just wait until he had me all the way at the back fucking wall of the goddamn boss arena. And I was like, fuck, I'm going in. And then I finally broke it and it paid off. But holy shit, I used to not mind this boss as much, but my last playthrough has just completely ruined Volnir for me, man. Like, it used to be like, okay, this is just a boss, it's easy. Smack the bracelets, his attacks are super easy to dodge. I never died to Black Mist. I'm just gonna be I'm gonna fight him like usual, and then I did, and I just died to Black Mist. That was it. Never died to his attacks, just the Black Mist. It was super annoying. Fucking honestly F tier. I don't like Volnir. Not as bad as Ancient Wyvern, but the Black Mist, the bracelets, the gimmick, I just don't like it. Another gimmick boss, but not as bad. And honestly, a super disappointing boss in my opinion. Yorm the Giant. So the whole gimmick with this guy is you have to use the Storm Ruler or whatever to charge attacks at him that will do damage to him. So basically what you're going to have to do is mid-fight, grab the sword in the arena, run, equipment manage, select the freaking sword, and then start using that. There's about 4 or 5 hits, I think, to kill him. Not really super hard. Just the biggest problem you're going to have is charging it, because Yorm isn't very slow and he has super long range and hits hard as fuck. So you're going to have to like charge it between attack windows, and a lot of times you won't have time, so you pretty much just have to be run away, make distance, attack, run away, make distance, charge, attack, over and over and over again. I don't like gimmick fights, and this is just the worst kind where you have to use a fucking weapon. I mean, it's not terrible, but like, I just, honestly, D tier. That's all I gotta say. Did not like it at all. He killed me once because while I was trying to switch to my freaking weapon, he got me. So, all right, now we're on to the 6 DLC bosses. Starting with a banger. Definitely one of the best bosses in the game, and one of the most brutal in the game. Sister Friede and Father Ariandel. So, this is the Ashes of Ariandel DLC boss, basically the final boss of that DLC. There's only 2 disappointingly, but this one's amazing. But it starts off with just you and Friede fighting, pretty easy first phase. She does like little stealth mechanics where she will just completely disappear. But if you have good ears and can listen to when she's about to attack you, you can easily roll out of it and get an easy punish in. But if you get hit by it, she hits you with a grab, and that completely fucks you up. I think she might even gain health during this fight, but I don't know. I just feel like she does. I don't know. But her first phase, pretty generic, easy. Usually only lost maybe 1 or 2 flasks, but she'll disappear. You could look for the Prince in the Snow, kind of like the Crosby Priscilla fight from DS1, but you don't really need to. Just listen to when she's about to attack you, because she always does the same attack, and you'll be fine. Roll out of it, punish, and just keep on repeating that. Easy day. Then you go into second phase, where it's a duo with Father Ariandel and Sister Friede. Ariandel, hunking giant that does massive damage, and he has pretty big AoEs, and you have Sister Friede, moving agile and stuff, but very passive. Usually Friede, in my experience with fighting her or fighting them, she's extremely passive in this phase, and it makes it a lot easier. But she will sneak in some ranged attacks, like the Frostbite one where they explode and absolutely destroy your health. But usually what I do is focus on Father Ariandel, and they share the same health pool, so even if you can't get licks on him, so like I say, he's far away, but Friede's right in front of you, you can get them. But just, yeah, keep eyes mainly on Ariandel, because he will fucking go across the map and absolutely destroy your health and hit you with fire and stuff, which I think gets rid of your Frostbite too, so you can do that, or Frostbite buildup, so you could do that, just take a little bit of damage from fire and lose the Frostbite. But then after you've done that, there's a third phase, a third whole phase. Like, this isn't something like you do 20% damage, here's the next phase, no, full health phases. So you kill Father Ariandel, and then it's a final phase between you and Friede once again, and she's like buffed up, she has like these she's like dual wielding sword, fucking scythes, she's hitting you with from range, big freaking black fire, which track you and do absurd amounts of damage, and she's super aggressive. And it's just a bad time, especially if you're this late into the fight, usually you have like maybe 4 or 5 flasks. At least if you're as good as me, you're probably better than me, so you probably have more. But a lot of times it took me like I'd have either 1 flask left or no flasks, and she would absolutely, it would just be a fucking slog fest where I'm just trying my hardest to get some freaking damage in. And I finally do, and when she falls, man, it's just a sigh of relief because it's one of the hardest bosses in the game, but it's so freaking good. I loved it, every minute of it. Like, there's bosses that are super difficult to do and you hate it, but there's also ones that are super difficult and you fucking love it, and this one of those bosses. I love this boss. S tier for sure. Putting that like right here, above Soul Cinder, but below Nameless King. Now we got, what is this? Champion Grave Watcher and Grave, or Champions Grave Tender and Grave Tender's Great Wolf. So you start out fighting the Grave Tender, and once you get him down to a certain HP threshold, I don't know exactly the number of it is, the wolf spawns and attacks. He's basically like Sif 2.0, so it's not really that super hard, but usually you can kill the first guy before him. Pretty much a optional fight. I think it gets rid of all the wolves in the DLC area, so I guess it's kind of useful. But if you want to do every boss, you have to fight it. Honestly, a very forgettable boss and a surprisingly frustrating one. Like, if I couldn't get the first guy to die before the wolf spawned in, I was just getting absolutely hammered by both of them and ended up dying a lot, like 2 or 3 times from this boss because of that. And it got super frustrating. I did not like the boss, and I really didn't care for the DLC super much. Not as much as the latter DLC, to be honest. So that's just my opinion, though. But didn't really care for this boss, and honestly one of the more difficult ones for me. And was just not an enjoyable fight at all. Honestly, I'm putting it in like D tier. I have like almost nothing good to say about it. The arena's kind of cool, I guess. I guess that's what saves for me F tier, but I put on like top of D. I really didn't care for it at all. It was just surprisingly frustrating. Like, it wasn't really difficult, it was just frustrating. Now we're going to the final DLC. I can't remember the DLC this is called, but it's the final, it's the DLC, the final 4 bosses of the game. Starting with a super cool one, Demon Prince. So it starts off as a duo fight where they switch aggressions, and they're completely different bosses. Like, they look the same, but they do different attacks. And depending on which one you kill first is the one that, or which one you kill last is the one that the prince kind of like inherits its attacks and stuff, I'm pretty sure. But they switch aggression where one will like go in raged mode and try to kill you, and then they'll switch off. The other one will go in rage, try to kill you, and then you're going to mix and match the 2 bosses and try to. It's really nice because they're not all both like super aggressive and try to attack you at once. You're not getting overwhelmed. They kind of like, one will try to attack you from range, but isn't really super, bad. And the second one will be all up in your face, trying to kill you and stuff, and they'll switch back and forth with different movesets. And then finally you take them out. Honestly, I thought it was over, and then it became the Demon Prince, which is just insane. I really didn't like the attack though, where it shot, I think it was like fireball or something, or like fire meteors or some crap, and it like one-shotted me. That was kind of annoying, but other than that, I really liked it. It was super aggressive the whole time, and you're like overwhelmed. It's almost like Sister Friday, where it's like you gotta kill 3 different bosses basically. But honestly, super enjoyed it. It was a nice fight, and was like just kind of set the tone for the entirety of the DLC, which was super difficult in my opinion. I'm gonna put this in A tier, atop of Lothric and Lorien. Next up is the penultimate, or not really penultimate, but it's the final boss of pretty much the game, Slave Knight Gale. What a fucking spectacular fight. The whole spectacle of it. I know I've been saying that a lot, but the whole spectacle of this fight is like nothing I've ever seen. You're on the end of the world, everything's ash, you have this Gale who's trying to take your dark soul for his, for the painting, for a new world. He's gone freaking hollow basically. He's trying to fight you, and he's pulling out everything out of the bag. Just all kinds of different techniques. You get to phase 2, and he's just getting more and more aggressive. You get to like a phase 3 where he's getting even more aggressive. Lightning's falling from the freaking sky. He's going flips with the freaking crossbow, fucking automatic machine gun crossbow. He's just pulling out all the stops to defeat you, dude, and it's just so freaking sick, dude. cape's on fire. It does damage to you. He's flipping and flying all over the freaking place. Super aggressive, super rewarding. Those movesets. You like freaking going toe with like an actual warrior, someone who's like on fucking par with you. Like I know a lot of these guys are more powerful than you and shit, but like this fight like felt like you were toe to toe with an actual freaking like someone who's on par with you. It's just there was nothing bad about this fight. Definitely, honestly, Bishwasser's my personal favorite, but I could go either way with these two. But I definitely agree it's Never Nameless King. Just an awesome fight, such a great fight to end it off the series on, and I could fight him day and night. It would not be disappointing, man. It's just so fun, so awesome. I had a great time fighting it. So that is my opinion on that. Next up is Half-Light Spear of the Church. So this is like kind of like a two-phase fight where first it starts like a guardian, a painting guardian, and then it sends like either a player or an AI opponent to fight you, and then during the fight it sends in another painting guardian, and the AI isn't super difficult but isn't really easy either, and then the player really depends on whether or not they're good at the game or not. I mean, depending on how good you are at PvP, it could be super easy or it could be super hard. Really, I don't know. To be honest, wasn't my favorite fight of the game. I don't know what else to say. I fought both the player like online fight and I fought the bot. I actually won with the bot. I lost with the AI or with the player, but honestly, these little spear attacks that do to the floor kind of be annoying sometimes. But other than that, honestly, it wasn't a terrible fight. I'll put it like top of C tier. And last but not least, certainly not least, Dark Eater Midir, man. Considered to be one of the hardest boss, if not the hardest boss in the game. Dark Eater Midir is a dragon that you actually see quite a lot through the DLC. You see him first guarding the bridge, and if you try to cross it, he'll breathe fire that will literally instantly kill you. And you gotta make it past him, and then you'll see him again, hugging a bridge, trying to prevent you to do it, which there you will attack him, knock him off into the abyss after you go to 0 health, but that's not it. You then fall into his boss arena where he's slumbering, and he'll wake up and fight you, and it's just a sick fight. It's just an awesome dragon fight. It does get annoying where he'll like create a lot of distance between you and him a lot of the time, and you have to run towards him, drain your stamina, and then he does certain attacks and stuff. He hits like a truck. Pretty sure his like a little beam fire attack does instant kill, so which rightly so. I think his grab instantly kills you as well, but I could be wrong on that. But he's a very fair and awesome boss fight. Probably one of the best, if not the best, dragon fight in Dark Souls or any Souls game for that matter. Maybe in any game, but that's just I haven't played every freaking game with a dragon in it, so I wouldn't really know. But super awesome fight. Considered to be one of the best and definitely one of the hardest bosses. I don't know if it's the one that killed me the most in my playthrough. I think maybe I think Nameless King might have killed me more. I can't tell you off the top of my head which one killed me the most between like Soul Cinder, like all these hard ones. But I really prefer the harder bosses that are a fair challenge because it makes it a lot more rewarding to beat them and a lot more memorable, in my opinion. But Dark Midir, one of the best dragon fights, up there with like Calamite. And honestly, Calamite is the only the one that I can think of that's really good. I really didn't care that for the Elden Ring dragon fights, so. But Midir is definitely an awesome fight. Really feels like you're taking on like superior like beast of an opponent that's like a fucking legend, basically a god, and a dragon. While Ancient Wyvern was just kind of like super lame. This one actually felt like you felt how massive and like how superior the dragon felt over you, if that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, definitely Dark Midir is up there as one of my favorite bosses in any Souls game, and definitely one of my favorite bosses in Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3, man, had a lot of bangers. Didn't have a lot of misses, but it had a lot of bangers. A lot of mid bosses too, but a lot of great ones. I mean, look at these selections. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, probably the best tutorial bosses. Boss in the game, Soul Cinder, awesome. Frude, Midir, Gale. I mean, all these bosses are super memorable. Honestly, makes me want to play the game through the game another time, just to fight them all again because they were just so awesome. And that's how freaking From Software delivers, except for Dark Souls 2. But maybe I'll make a video on that, talking about the different bosses on that game because there's a lot of bad ones. But here we are, man. This is my Dark Souls 3 tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in another one. Peace.